all the methods currently taught for learning the Japanese language are wrong. Not categorically wrong and impossible. No, you can still learn languages that way. In fact, there's been a lot of progress in learning how people learn things. But even the best language learning methods out there are still, in my view, incomplete. The reason I feel these methods are wrong is because they don't teach people in the way that adults learn. There are many methods advocated for learning a language out there. Memorization is the hardest. Read something, listen to something, think about it, and try to repeat it. Spaced repetition is basically the evolution of memorization, but it just comes down to fancy flashcards. Immersion is promised to be the foundational breakthrough for language learning, but even immersion, I think, gets it wrong. I'm Ryan, and this is Better Japanese. Imagine you sit down and decide to learn the Japanese language through watching anime. First of all, it's been shown that you have to completely turn off English subtitles and turn on Japanese subtitles for this to make any difference whatsoever. If you could learn a language just by watching a TV show, regardless of how long it took, but with English subtitles, or subtitles in your native language, there would be hundreds of thousands of fluent Japanese speakers in America today. That's how many people watch anime. The idea of immersion is learning based on you're focused on that new language and you're not being given clues in your existing language so that you form new connections between the visuals and the words. The problem, at least in early language learning context, is that this still isn't enough information. For example, you could see two anime characters in school uniforms on screen talking, but they could be talking about anything. They could be talking about baseball, video games, after-school plans, anything really. The problem with immersion is often missing context. Let's take a look at how Japanese is traditionally taught. Here's a traditional first lesson in Japanese. Hajimemashite, watashi wa Ryan desu. Ah, Ryan-san, hajimemashite, watashi wa Basil desu. Yoroshiku onegai shimasu. Yoroshiku onegai shimasu. That is how you usually introduce yourself in Japanese. But if you're going to visit Japan as a tourist, how often are you going to be introducing yourself? Is hajimemashite the right thing to say when you enter a restaurant? You've just met a new person, so maybe it is. The problem is that nobody gives you the full context of what you are learning. Instead, language teachers often try to teach adults like they are middle and high school kids, but adults learn things differently. Think about how and why a baby learns for a moment. The mom might bring a bottle and say, "Hi baby, it's time for your bottle." Eventually, the baby knows that it can associate the word bottle from that sentence and can say bottle when it wants it. But adult humans don't need to absorb language elements through this kind of immersion, and in fact, this kind of immersion is for many people very difficult. It takes active listening skills and thinking. You can't do it for very long before you experience burnout. The problem with immersion for adults is that many adults have a lot of thoughts going on in their heads already. We already know a lot of words, concepts, and things. We learn better when we learn with the right amount of context. And that's what I think traditional teaching methods are failing at. For example, the word hajimemashite could be very useful to you once you understand the root word is hajimaru. It means simply to begin. Just by knowing that, with a little practice and experience, allows you to understand questions like hajimemashita, has it started already? Or hajimete, is it your first time here? I think another lesson is that language teachers often refuse to teach direct transliteration word for word. When you say, I am hungry in Japanese, the actual exact words mean my stomach has become empty. Onaka ga suita. My stomach became empty. This refusal to directly teach and translate on a word-for-word basis not only means you have to focus on memorizing specific set phrases, but it also locks you out of useful context that can be used to build up more knowledge. This is the foundation of my language learning method. This type of word-for-word transliteration has been called interlinear translation or interlinear glossing, but those phrases also have other meanings, making their use ambiguous. Interlinear translation and glossing are not usually done as teaching methods, and they don't follow some rules that I think make this type of translation useful, like only using it a few times until you get the associations down. So I'm going to call this method contextual glossing, or you can just call it the Koff method. The missing piece is context density. You see, immersion assumes that visuals and language alone are enough, but they aren't. The mind needs the right density of context for a phrase to stick. Too little context, such as two characters talking vaguely in class, leaves you guessing at so much of the meaning. But too much context, like a page of grammar explanation before a single usable phrase, overwhelms you and delays your ability to use those phrases. Traditional teaching gives you phrases without grounding them in the context of when and why they're used and what exactly is being said. And immersion learning can drop you into a lot of noise without enough clear context to actually make learning easy. Both these methods ignore that adults learn by anchoring new information to existing knowledge, by tying words to concepts they already understand, then reinforcing those connections through various use cases and examples and exposure. Hajimarimashou. Let's begin. And let's begin by breaking down the words and phrases in the traditional first Japanese lesson. The first word is hajimemashite. This word is taught to you as nice to meet you, but the literal meaning is different. It comes from the root hajime, which means beginning, and the phrase really means we are beginning our relationship. So when you say hajimemashite, you're not just saying hello. You can't use it as hello. You're saying this is the start of us knowing each other. And knowing that context means also you're going to know that you can't say it to someone you've already met before. Or you'll be saying, it's the first time I'm meeting you. And they'll be like, we've met before. As far as context goes, hajimemashite is usually only used in the context of personal introductions. If you're meeting a friend for the first time or a new colleague, you might say hajimemashite. But if you're at a restaurant, you won't say it to staff. You also only use it the very first time you meet someone. The next thing you usually learn is to introduce your name. That is, watashi wa Ryan desu. Teachers will say this means, I am Ryan. That is mostly true, but the real structure is important. Watashi means I, and that is a very easy, direct translation. It's a polite I. Wa is the topic marker, which actually makes the sentence, as for me, blank. Watashi wa, as for me, blank. And des is a polite sentence ending, which in English is often translated as am. So the exact structure is me, as for, Ryan am. It sounds funny in English, but knowing this structure helps you later when you see the same pattern used in hundreds of other ways. Then you hear Ryan-san. The suffix san is like Mr. or Mrs., and it's attached to someone's name to show respect. Many Japanese language teachers will tell you that you can never leave it off and that you never say names without it. But in context, that is not often true. I have a friend in Japan who we always call Mao-chan, and another friend who is often just called Haru, but sometimes Haru-kun. It depends a lot on who you are talking to, where you are, what you're talking about, and what time it is. The most complicated phrase taught in this beginner Japanese lesson, though, is yoroshiku onegai shimasu. Teachers will just say this means nice to meet you also, but that's not right. Yoroshiku means something like favorably or in a good and appropriate way, and onegai shimasu literally means I request. Yoroshiku comes from the root word yoroshi, which means good or suitable. It's a very interesting word with a lot of meaning behind it, but it's a lot easier for us to focus first on onegai shimasu. In fact, onegai shimasu is a word that you should learn very early in your Japanese lessons. It is a very polite way to request something. For example, if you're at a restaurant and you're ordering katsu chicken curry, you could say, "Katsu curry, onegai shimasu." Please give me the katsu curry. So what you're saying with the phrase yoroshiku onegai shimasu is, I humbly request that you treat me well. Suitably treat me, yoroshiku onegai shimasu, I request. And you don't just say it when you meet someone. You say it in business all the time when asking for help or even when handing off responsibility to another person. In fact, you can say it almost all the time if you want to. If you're handing an item to a cashier, you could say, yoroshiku onegai shimasu. Imagine if someone came up to you in English and said, "Would you be so kind as to help me with this?" Very polite, maybe even a little eccentric, too polite, but nobody's going to be mad at you for saying it. You could say it at the start of a board game with friends, yoroshiku onegai shimasu, when handing in homework to a teacher. You could even say it to an umbrella stand when you put your umbrella in the stand. "Please, take care of this for me. I humbly request." You can be ridiculously polite to everything with this one simple phrase. Already, I hope you can see the problem with the way this first lesson in Japanese is usually taught. The teacher gives you the surface translation, but not the actual meaning. You're just told, memorize this. But if you don't know the roots, and if you don't know the real structure, then you don't have the tools to expand your understanding later. And this is exactly why I'm teaching you with the cough method. Let's move on to a very useful follow-up. We already learned in just the past few short minutes a lot of useful words and phrases. Try not to get bogged down in memorizing the words and phrases. Just listen, and maybe try to repeat once or twice in your head to get the words in your head. But memorizing things, repeating them over and over, does not work. Don't waste your energy trying it. Instead, just journey with me as we look at using these words and phrases in real life. Onegai shimasu, the ending part of yoroshiku onegai shimasu, is by itself very useful for requesting things. This is something you can use right away in real life. You walk into a coffee shop in Japan, look at the menu, and say, "Cappuccino onegai shimasu." That one word takes the place of a whole sentence. "I would like a cappuccino, please." Simple, polite, and natural. The beauty of onegaishimasu is that you don't even need to conjugate or worry about grammar. You just attach it to the thing you want. At a train station, Shinjuku made onegaishimasu. To Shinjuku, please. At a ramen shop, miso ramen onegaishimasu. Miso ramen, please. It works in almost every transactional setting, and it's always polite. And the nuance here is important. Japanese has other ways to say please, like kudasai. But onegaishimasu is softer and more humble. If you say cappuccino kudasai, it's still correct, but it can sound a little more direct, like give me a cappuccino. Onegaishimasu adds that layer of respect that adults in Japan expect to hear in public. No one is going to be upset if you use onegaishimasu. It's the difference between can I get a cappuccino and may I please have a cappuccino? It goes beyond ordering food. Imagine you hand your luggage to a hotel staff member. You can say onegaishimasu. When you ask someone to turn on the air conditioning, you can just say onegaishimasu. Even if you don't know the exact grammar for can you turn on the air conditioner for me, you can just gesture towards it and say onegaishimasu. And people will then understand immediately. By the way, when asking for a ticket to a place at the train station, which is called an eki, you use the word made. That's the next word I'm going to teach you. Shinjuku made onegaishimasu. Shinjuku to, please. Tokyo eki made onegaishimasu. Tokyo Station to, please. If you want a ticket from Tokyo Station to Shinjuku Station, you would use a new word, kara, which is from, or indicating the start of a place. Tokyo eki kara Shinjuku eki made onegaishimasu. Tokyo Station from Shinjuku Station to, please. And this is where Japanese gets very flexible, very fast. Just with kara from and made to, you can describe almost any starting point and destination. You don't need very complicated grammar. You just need the words kara and made. And I know it might feel like I'm teaching you a lot of words and phrases very fast, but again, remember you're not expected to memorize them. You should say them once so that you can practice pronunciation, but learning comes from natural, comprehensible exposure over time. So back on subject, if you're in Kyoto and you want to buy a ticket to Osaka, you can say Kyoto kara Osaka made onegaishimasu. From Kyoto to Osaka, please. If you're sending a package, you can even describe its route. Tokyo kara Fukuoka made onegaishimasu. From Tokyo to Fukuoka, please. It works with time as well, not just destinations and places. For example, 9時から5時までです. It is from 9 o'clock to 5 o'clock. That is how you would describe the working hours or the time span of an event, possibly the open hours of a store. Another example, 9時までです until 9 p.m. You might hear this at a restaurant if you ask what time they close. 9時までです 9 p.m. until is. And here's a fun one. You can even mix yoroshiku into this. Imagine you're at work and you're passing off a task. You can say, ここからよろしくお願いします. From here, I leave it to you. Please take care of it. This is a very natural phrase in Japanese offices, and you'll hear it often when people hand responsibility from one person to another. Even with just these tiny pieces, kara, made, onegaishimasu, yoroshiku, desu, you already have a massive toolbox for describing places, times, requests, and responsibilities. That's real Japanese, and it's the kind you can use right away, not just memorize and forget. But again, I don't want you to try to memorize them, because memorization is bad for learning. Take this lesson as it was, and don't think about it again. You're welcome to watch again for more practice, repeat phrases with me, but memorizing phrases is the hardest way to learn. Instead of repeating a phrase over and over in your head, try to think about actual scenarios where that word or phrase can be applied, and imagine the way the words connect to form meaning. I'm Ryan, and if you want to try this type of Japanese language lesson a little more, click the next video here. See you next time.